Hello, everyone. Playing implies rules both parties understand. Strategy, moves, counter moves. Game where players know they're playing, even if they pretend otherwise. But what happens when you stop recognizing the game as game, when you withdraw participation so completely that the board itself disappears, when you refuse to move, counter, respond in ways that keep play alive? Simple. Game ends. Not because other player decides to stop playing, because there's nobody left to play with. Board vanishes when one player walks away. Rules become irrelevant when participation ceases. So the statement, "they won't play with you ever again," contains assumption that they're the ones who'll change, that they're the who'll recognize, that they're the ones who'll stop, wrong focus entirely. Muscles tense across back like preparing for impact that isn't coming. Trust me. Two words that signal don't verify, don't question, don't examine, just accept what follows as truth because I'm telling you it's truth. Except trust isn't demanded, isn't requested, isn't prefaced with instruction to trust. Trust develops through consistency, through accuracy, through being right enough times that believing becomes easier than doubting. Starting with "trust me" signals absence of that foundation, signals "you should trust" despite lack of evidence, signals the claim that follows needs your belief more than it needs to be true. And that's backwards. Truth doesn't need belief. Truth just is. Whether you trust it or not, whether you accept it or not, whether you believe the person saying it or not. So when someone says, "trust me," before making claim about future behavior of third party, what's actually being asked? Not trust, but suspension of critical thinking. Acceptance of narrative without evidence. Agreement to believe what serves the speaker, regardless of whether reality supports it. Can you feel that manipulation? That subtle coercion dressed as friendly advice? Heartbeat irregular like drummer lost the beat mid-song. They won't play with you. Future tense. Prediction. Claim about what someone else will or won't do based on what exactly? What information? What evidence? What demonstrated pattern? Because predicting other people's behavior is tricky business. People are inconsistent, contradictory, capable of change, and equally capable of repeating patterns you thought they'd outgrown. Saying with certainty that they won't play, that's either arrogance or ignorance. Either believing you understand someone else's psychology completely, or not caring whether claim is accurate as long as it feels good to believe, and you wanting to believe it. That's what makes this work. You wanting so badly to believe that playing is over, that games are done, that they'll finally see you clearly and stop with manipulation, with mixed signals, with treating connection like sport. That wanting, that's what makes you vulnerable to claims that can't be verified, that have no foundation, that promise what you desperately need to be true without any actual basis for that promise. So the question becomes, do you believe it because evidence supports it, or because believing feels better than uncertainty? Only one of those is solid ground to stand on. Stomach churning, like it's trying to digest something indigestible ever again. Absolute, final, definitive end to pattern that's been frustrating, painful, exhausting. Never is big claim. Forever is long time. Ever again suggests no possibility of return to old dynamic, old games, old ways of interacting that left you feeling played. But people don't change that dramatically. Don't shift that completely. Don't go from playing with you to never playing with you ever again without significant intervention, consequence, transformation. So what's changed? What's different now that makes never playing again realistic outcome? What consequence did they face? What realization did they have? What transformation occurred that makes return to old patterns impossible? If if you can't answer those questions, if you can't point to specific shifts, if you're just hoping that somehow magically they've changed without anything actually changing, then ever again is wishful thinking. Not prediction, not insight, just hope dressed up as certainty. And hope is fine. Hope is human. Hope is sometimes all you have. But calling hope, trust me, they won't, and treating it like fact, that's where things get dangerous. That's where you set yourself up for disappointment when patterns you thought were ended reveal themselves as just paused. Skin feels too tight, like it's shrinking, or body's expanding beneath it. Won't play with you specifically, as if you're a special case, as if something about you makes playing impossible now, as if you've transformed so completely that old games don't work anymore. And maybe that's true. Maybe you have shifted. Maybe you've become someone games don't work on anymore. Someone who sees manipulation clearly. Someone who refuses to participate in dynamics that diminish you. If that's real, if that's actual transformation you've undergone, then you don't need promise that they won't play with you, because you're not available to be played with. You're not participating. You're not responding to moves designed to manipulate. You've removed yourself from game entirely. And when one player removes themselves, game can't continue regardless of whether other player wants to keep playing. But if you haven't transformed, if you're still vulnerable to same games, same manipulation, same patterns, if you're just hoping they'll change rather than becoming someone games don't work on, then won't play with you ever again is fantasy, wishful projection, hope that they'll do work you haven't done yourself. And that hope, that outsourcing of responsibility for ending games to their supposed transformation, that's still being in game, still playing, just playing role of person waiting for other player to quit, jaw aching from grinding teeth against each other without conscious awareness. Play, what does that even mean in relational context? Manipulation, mixed signals, testing, creating uncertainty to maintain control? Or does it mean something else? Does it mean engagement, interaction, connection, even if that connection is dysfunctional? Because sometimes what you call playing, what you resent as manipulation, it's just engagement. It's two people interacting in patterns neither fully understands or controls. It's dynamic that emerged from both people's wounds, fears, needs colliding in ways that create pain alongside whatever draws you back repeatedly. And framing that as them playing with you, as them manipulating, as them being responsible for dynamic you participate in, that's simplification. That's making complex things simple by assigning blame to one party while absolving other. But relational dynamics don't work that way. Don't get created by one person alone. Don't continue because one person is bad and other is victim. They continue because both people participate. Both people get something from it, even if what they get is painful. Both people contribute to pattern, even if contribution isn't equal or obvious. So, them not playing with you ever again. That only happens if you stop playing too, if you stop participating, if you recognize your role in dynamic and change it regardless of what they do. Anything else is just hoping they'll unilaterally change dynamic you're still actively participating in. Blood pulsing in ears loud enough to drown out external sound. Trust me, they won't play with you ever again. Whole statement. Let's examine function it serves. It soothes. It promises. It offers certainty in uncertainty. It gives you something to believe that makes current pain feel temporary, makes struggle feel like it's ending, makes hope feel like it's based on something real instead of just need for relief. And that function, that emotional service the statement provides, that's valuable, that's meaningful. That's what makes you want to believe it even without evidence. Because believing they won't play anymore means you can stop being vigilant, can stop protecting yourself, can relax guard that's exhausting to maintain. Believing means you can hope for a different future without having to create it yourself, can imagine change without being responsible for change, can wait for them to transform rather than transforming yourself. And that's appealing, that's seductive, that's what makes promises about other people's future behavior so attractive despite being unprovable and often inaccurate. But here's what believing does. Here's what accepting, trust me they won't, actually creates. Passivity, waiting, hope attached to something you can't control, energy invested in their potential change rather than your actual change. Focus on what they might do differently instead of what you can do differently right now. And while you're believing, waiting, hoping, time passes, opportunities for your own transformation get missed. Choices that would remove you from game entirely go unchosen because you're holding out for game to end through their decision rather than yours. Is that cost worth the comfort of believing? Breathing shallow like lungs forgot how to fill completely. They won't play with you ever again. Okay, let's say it's absolutely true. Let's say they genuinely transform, recognize, change so completely that playing becomes impossible for them. Does that fix you? Does that heal what made you available for playing in first place? Does that address patterns in yourself that allowed game to continue as long as it did? No, it doesn't. Their transformation leaves your patterns untouched, leaves your wounds unhealed, leaves you potentially available for same game with different player. Because if you're someone games work on, if you're someone who participates in dynamics that diminish you, if you're someone who gets caught in patterns of manipulation or mixed signals or uncertainty, then them stopping doesn't protect you, doesn't prevent next person who plays from playing successfully, doesn't create immunity to games. Only your transformation does that. Only you becoming someone games don't work on. Only you changing patterns that made playing possible. And that work, that transformation, that change, it doesn't require them to stop playing, doesn't need their recognition or their shift or their different behavior, just needs you choosing changing, becoming someone who's unavailable for games, regardless of whether anyone tries to play them. Throat tight like something's lodged that won't move up or down. So, no, I won't confirm they won't play with you ever again. Won't validate hope that their transformation will solve what only your transformation can solve. Won't promise they'll change in ways that let you stay the same. Instead, I'll say this: become someone games don't work on. Become someone who recognizes manipulation so clearly it has no power. Become someone who walks away from patterns that diminish you before they have chance to take hold. Become that through work, through choice, through consistent refusal to participate in dynamics that hurt you, even when participation is familiar, even when it's what you know, even when walking away feels harder than staying and hoping things will change. And when you've become that, when you've done that work, when you've transformed yourself into someone unavailable for games, then it doesn't matter if they play or don't play. Doesn't matter if they change or stay the same. Doesn't matter if they recognize or remain oblivious, because you're not playing, you're not available, you're not participating in dynamics that require you to hope someone else stops doing what only you can prevent by removing yourself from game entirely. That's power. That's freedom. That's what actually protects you. Not their supposed transformation, yours. Not their recognition of game being over, your recognition that you're done playing regardless of what they do. That's what ends it. Permanently. Finally. Actually. Not trust me, they won't. But I choose not to. I refuse to participate. I'm unavailable for games regardless of whether anyone tries to play them. That's the only ever again that you can actually count on. The only promise that doesn't require anyone else to change. The only certainty that's actually within your control. Everything else is just hoping, just waiting, just trusting claims that can't be verified about futures that may not materialize. And you deserve better than hope based on someone else's supposed transformation. You deserve certainty based on your own. Truth isn't found in others' stories. It's discovered in your own silence. No predictions, just presence. Stay curious. Stay awake.